Hey guys, welcome back to Trellis and Trails Homestead. I'm Jacqueline. So we're gonna get some veggie broth in the crock pot. I'm just gonna stick all the veggie scraps that I have from the freezer into the crock pot with some water. I have some herbs and stuff thrown in here too, but we can always add some like spices and herbs to this as well. So it's 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I'm gonna leave the veggie broth, the veggie scraps in here to simmer all night for, usually I do about 24 hours. It may be a little less since it's already the afternoon, but we'll go ahead and get these simmering in the crock pot and we'll just leave them overnight and it'll make a really easy veggie broth. So tomorrow we'll come back and after it's done simmering, we'll get all of this veggie broth canned up and make it shelf stable to put downstairs in my canning pantry. I have these 2-gallon sized Ziploc bags. And I usually do my broth in 2 crock pots. I think today, I'm just gonna throw it all into 1 crock pot since this is a good variety of veggie scraps. And the bags aren't super full. You can still see there's some room left. So let's just go ahead and toss these in here. All right, I'm gonna toss this in first. And you know what? I might actually need to do it in 2. By the time I add some of the herbs and the celery, I think it's going to be pretty full. So, toss some onion in there. I might just separate this into 2 different batches. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I am going to put it in 2 crock pots. I think it'll be easier that way. I have a whole thing of celery in this one. I'm just separating out some of the herbs and things to try to make both crock pots kind of even with the flavors. It doesn't really matter necessarily because if I'm going to do it in 2 crock pots, I'll put all the liquid, all the juice together anyways tomorrow before we can it up. So the flavors will kind of all intermingle. So I have pretty much the same thing in both crock pots, or I'm going to. I think it'll be fine. So you can see our crock pot is pretty full with all of that, and we still have like a half a bag of each. So yeah, I'll probably just put it in 2 crock pots. If you have one of those bigger like roasting type crock pots, those large ones, that would be perfect for this. I just don't have one of those, but I do have 2 crock pots, so that's just what we're gonna use. This is pretty full to the brim. I'm going to fill it with some warm water and then we'll just turn it on. So I pretty much fill this up with water all the way. These veggies and things will kind of simmer down, so I make sure that it's pretty full. All right. So we'll just cover this and let it sit for probably about 18 hours or so. Maybe not quite the full 24. We'll see what time we get to canning it up tomorrow. I'll let you guys know. I'm just gonna put it on low. I'm gonna put it on 10 hours for now. My crock pot unfortunately will like switch to warm. I think most crock pots do that. Switch to warm after the amount of time that you set. So just before I go to bed tonight, I'll make sure to reset it for another like 10 hours or whatever. And yeah, it'll just simmer all night. I love making broth, but the hardest part of doing this is smelling it during the night. It seems like the scent just like, I can smell it upstairs while I'm sleeping and it smells so good. So in the morning, it always smells like delicious food or something is cooking, and it's just from the veggie broth. So I really do love to make this. So I also love to have it on my pantry shelf. It's, like I said, shelf stable once we can it up. So I just grab it whenever I need it for soups or crock pot meals or any other type of dish or recipe. And it's so perfect to have on hand. It's so versatile too. I think I was mentioning this in one of the other videos. Of course, if you have like bones, beef bones or chicken bones or anything like that, you can add them to this and make bone broth. I don't have any bones right now, but I really like to make veggie broth anyways because it is so versatile. And if I'm doing some sort of like vegetarian dish or like a lentil soup or anything like that, the veggie broth is perfect for that. So you can add whatever you need to it later. I'm just covering this for now so I can go ahead and put the other stuff in the other crock pot, but I may come back in here and add some like dried herbs and stuff that I have to, and a little bit of salt. I usually, I'll add some salt to it, but I don't go overboard with the salt in the crock pot because I usually just add the salt to whatever dish that I'm making. So once I add the veggie broth in to the soup, whatever, I'll add the salt to it then and flavor it as much as I need to with the salt. So it's pretty bland from a salt perspective in the jars, and that's fine because we'll just add whatever we need to it later. So let's get these other scraps in the other crock pot. Okay, I like to sit the other crock pot just over here by our coffee pot, and then the one over there. I could definitely put them both over there, but for some reason I like to do it over here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my scraps to this. I went ahead and added some water to the bowl of the pot, just so that, since we're not by the sink, and then I'll come back in and just add some extra water to top it off. So you can save any sort of veggie scrap. I have celery, thyme, onion scraps, rosemary, garlic scraps, some peppers, and I just put the seeds and all in there because we're gonna strain this anyways tomorrow before we can it up. So I just put the seeds in, all the peels and all the things in there. We've got some thyme, garlic, more onion, mostly just more onion in this bag, some pepper. It looks like there was the jalapeno top that we had used in one of our other videos. So this one has a little bit less in it. I'm just gonna check my fridge really quick and make sure there's no other scraps in there that I need to put in here. I do have some tomatoes that are getting a little bit puny looking. I'm just gonna toss those in too. It's not gonna be tomato based with just the few that we have in here, but I'm just gonna use them up. I'm just gonna salt it a little bit with some pink Himalayan salt. Okay, I think for now I'm just gonna add in some bay leaves. Just because there is so much onion and garlic, I don't really wanna add like powder or spices of those sorts, even though I do have a lot of onion powder I could use up. I don't wanna put them in my broth, I'll just put them in dishes when I need them for seasoning. So I like to add probably about 3 or so bay leaves into each pot, just for all that flavor. Kind of mix this in. I think I'm gonna toss some peppercorns in here too, just for a little extra kind of spice. Actually, I'm gonna have to take some peppercorns out of my shaker because I don't have any more. I'm gonna have to go to Costco and get some. But we'll add some of those throughout. We'll add some of those in. All right, and we'll just put the lid on this and let it simmer. It smells so good already. So I have it set on 10 hours as well. I'm gonna add the bay leaves and the salt to the other one. I'm just gonna wash my veggie bags out, the ones that I keep in the freezer with the scraps in, just because they're still in good shape and I don't wanna waste them. I'll just use them again for more veggie scraps. So you can really add any sort of veggie scrap that you have. All of those that I just added are really, really good ones to toss in. Mushrooms I've put in there before, more tomatoes, if I had any more, then you could toss those in. Celery, garlic, onion, leeks, all of those things, peppers. There are some things you want to avoid putting in your veggie broth because they can change the flavor quite a bit. So any cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, Those types of vegetables you want to avoid because they can make your broth taste super bitter. So I don't ever save the scraps from any of those to toss in. I just do mostly the onion, the garlic. Some of the garlic scraps that I have in here, it was from roasted garlic, roasted in the oven. So I think that'll add a really good flavor too because it was roasted first. The garlic peels. Other things you want to avoid, potatoes, sweet potatoes, potato skins. Those can make your broth really starchy. So you just don't want to add in a broth that's super starchy to your beans or quinoa or anything else. So we'll just let this simmer overnight. I'll bring you back probably before I'm going to bed just so you can see how it changes throughout the afternoon and see the color of it forming and all of that. I'll come in and just stir this a couple of times, but it's pretty low maintenance. Once I toss it in the crock pot, I kind of just leave it. You can, of course, like boil these down on the stove in like a regular pot, and it would take far less time. I just have the time to let it sit overnight, so I just like to do it in the crock pot, but you can definitely do it on the stove. And then you don't have to pressure can it. If you don't have a way to pressure can your vegetable broth, you can stick it in jars or, you know, freezer bags and just toss it into the freezer and just thaw it out whenever you need to use it for something. The reason you want to pressure can it versus water bath canning is because it's low in acid. There's no vinegar added, there's no lemon juice or citric acid, any of those ingredients that increase the acidity of your recipe. Those are the ones that are safe to water bath can. It's not safe to water bath can your veggie broth just because it's a low acid. So anything low acid needs to be pressure canned always. I'll bring you back a little bit later this afternoon once these have cooked down a little bit, and bring you back tomorrow when we do the pressure canning. Hey guys, good morning. It's the next day. I've had my veggie broth simmering in the crock pots all night long. The oven's over here. So they simmered for about 18 hours. Actually, they were on for 10 hours, and then I just let them go to warm whatever time during the night. I did get up once just to check on it and give it a stir, make sure that it was okay. And then shortly after it went to warm, I just left it on warm the entire night. This morning when I got up, I briefly put it back on like low just to kind of re-simmer it a little bit, and I have them back on warm again. So we're gonna go ahead and prepare our jars, get them in the pressure canner. We'll get the jars filled up and put in the pressure canner. I'll show you all that. And look at how beautiful this turned out. Look at that dark, rich color. I think my broth always turns out this color, kind of like a bit darker than like a chicken broth or something like that. Because I use red onion. I save red onion scraps and put red onion in it. So I think that's why it comes out with this darker color all of the time. But it is delicious. It smells so good. You can see the celery kind of cooked down, the bay leaf, the onion, the garlic, the peppers, all that good stuff. So this is so good. Can't wait to have this all canned up. Here's our other one. Just as delicious. I forgot to tell you guys too, a lot of times I have carrot in this, like carrot scraps or just some whole carrots if I want to pop those in there. But I didn't have any carrots in this batch. That's okay. But that's a good veggie to add to your veggie broth too. Look at that. I wish you guys could smell it. So good. All right, so let's get our jars prepared. All right, I have my pressure canner out, so we're just getting this ready. As you see, it's on. The pressure can light is blinking. This is where you can change it from pressure can to boiling water can, but we're gonna pressure can because of the low acid in our vegetable broth. So we're just gonna select that. And then if you're canning just vegetable broth, not bone broth you'll can for longer, like I think it's 90 minutes because it has like animal product in it. This is just veggie, so it's totally safe to can for 30 minutes only. So that's what we're gonna set the timer. 30 minutes. And it'll tell you insert jars. So we're just gonna take the lid off. Set this aside. And then we're gonna start to get the pot ready. So I need to fill this with water just up to the fill line here. I'll fill my jars half full with water, pop them in here so that they can get warm before I add the hot broth to the jars, just so that they don't break. So I can fit 8 regular mouth pint jars in here. That's all that will fit for pressure canning. Depending on if you're pressure canning or boiling water canning, the capacity varies. So I just always follow my instruction sheet for this, or my instruction booklet, and just make sure that I'm doing it correctly. So we'll get these warmed up. So our jars are warming. In the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and get my veggie broth strained. I have some cheesecloth that I just like to strain it through into like a large pot, so that we'll be ready to just toss that right into the jars when they come out of the canner after being warmed. So I just like to try to strain this out as much as possible, the veggies, with the cheesecloth. And they're super hot, just coming out of the crock pot. So I just kind of twist it and get it kind of tight. And then I'm just gonna kind of squeeze it down with the spoon here. There's usually not a ton of juice left in the veggies. And then I'm gonna compost these in my compost bin. I'm not gonna throw them away, so. This will add some good nutrients to my compost once all of this stuff breaks down into soil. Okay. So I'm just gonna grab a bowl and dump these into a bowl to take them outside. And it looks like my pot is pretty full here. Yeah. This is gonna make a ton of broth. I'm probably gonna have to do 2 batches. I might even have to go get more jars because I'm kind of running out. We have an entire pot of delicious veggie broth in here. Look at that. That pot is completely full. So this very well might be more than 8 pints, but we're just gonna jar it up, see how much it makes. I really want a can in just pints today because I already have a couple of quarts, and I just tend to use the pints more often than the quarts. If I use the quart, I don't use the whole thing, so then I end up having to stick it in the fridge or the freezer to use for next time anyways. So if I can can them all in pints today, I would rather do that. I am running out of jars, so I have a few up here in the cabinet that I store, but I don't have any more of the regular mouth pints downstairs. I don't think I have any pints downstairs. I just have quarts and a couple of other things. So we'll see what we can do. We may have to do this in 2 batches in the pressure canner, but let's go ahead and get this jarred up. Our canner now says fill jars, so that's how you know the jars are warmed up. We're gonna just open it and take the jars out one by one with our jar lifter. So I'm just filling these up to about a 1/2 inch headspace. They look a little low right now. We'll go back in and fill in all the way up to a 1/2 inch when we're done. But I'm gonna finish filling these 5 jars. All right, so that is 8 full jars. We still have quite a bit left. I mean, this is probably enough for maybe 4 more pints. So I'm gonna try to find some more pints. I'm gonna also just stick this back in the crock pot to stay warm in the meantime, because these are gonna can for 30 minutes. And then the longest part of pressure canning is waiting for the cool down, for the pressure to come down. That process takes about an hour and a half. So I really wanna just can this up. It's gonna take a little while to get these 2 batches done, but I'd rather have it shelf stable than taking up room in my freezer. So let's go ahead and get these, the rims wiped down, the lids and the bands on, and we'll go ahead and pop those in the pressure canner. So our canner has just reheated the jars, and now it says venting. As soon as the 2 minutes are up, it's going to say put regulator on. So we're just going to put this on top of here so that it can build up the pressure to do the canning part. It's been 30 minutes. Our broth is all canned up. It's cooling now. And this process from pressure canning so that the pressure can come down takes about an hour and a half. So I'll bring you back when this is done cooling, when the pressure has come down, when we're taking the jars out so you can see all of that. All right, our pressure canner is done. I've given it some time to cool. I actually went ahead and turned it off, but you just want this vent to have dropped. And so it's not steaming anymore, so I think we're safe to open it. So we'll go ahead and do that. All right, let's see how these look. Look at that. Beautiful. Look at that beautiful color. You can see that they're still bubbling a bit because they're still pretty hot. Beautiful. There's some, looks like little sediment, but that's just from our veggies. That's okay. This color is definitely not as dark as it has been before when I've canned this up, and I think it's because I had less red onion in it. So this is actually really, really gorgeous, gorgeous amber color. You can hear them and see them starting to pop already, the seals. That's what we want. So we have this absolutely stunning veggie broth, shelf stable, all pressure canned up. So I can't wait to add these to my shelf downstairs. There's 8 here. I am gonna put the rest of that crock pot into probably 4 or 5 more jars. I won't go through the whole canning process and show you all that, but I'll show you what those look like coming out of the canner too. But really excited to have these, and so excited that they're a lighter color this time. Anyways, thanks for hanging out with me today, canning up some veggie broth. Make sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.